After painstakingly researching natural law, or what most people mistakenly call common law, I've come to the following revelation. Humanity has never ever lost their inalienable rights, despite the deep state creating a fraudulent legal system which entrapped all of us in a legislative system of control, guys, which seems to remove all of our rights. What this means is that, in effect, guys, you can, in the interim, until humanity is publicly freed from the clutches of the deep state's ridiculous fraud, I believe that you can continue to live in both worlds successfully. In other words, you can still enjoy the benefits associated with having your straw man, which, as you know, is a fiction created at your birth. And when required, guys, you can also enjoy the freedom associated with being a sovereign being as well. In other words, you can still remain registered to vote, you can still use the cabal's credit lines from their banks, and you can still operate within the confines of the corporation, guys, in other words, your corporation, which is masquerading as your country, so that you can enjoy all the benefits that this brings, but when required, guys, by using the correct words and phrases, you can choose to exert all of your inalienable rights as well. Remember that your rights always remain inalienable, in other words, completely untouchable. The fraud committed by the cabal never ever changes this. So best way to explain this is via an example. So when in a traffic stop, unless you accept the authority of the traffic officer or policeman, they have absolutely no authority over you at all. The secret though, guys, is never become confrontational, but rather you've always got to strive to be educational. This requires extensive knowledge and absolute confidence and belief in what you're doing. If things begin to spiral out of control, my advice to you guys is, as the cop believes that he does have authority over you, don't get aggressive, just comply, but notify them of your inalienable rights and that you do not accept or recognize their authority in any way. So rather than getting hurt, comply and deal with the situation, rather deal with the situation in court, where it's much more likely that the magistrate will be aware of your inalienable rights. So even when it comes to being in prison, guys, they require 3 signatures before they can incarcerate you. They require your signature, the judge's signature, and the prosecutor's signature. But be careful here, guys. If you sign over power of attorney to your lawyer, they can indeed then sign you into prison on your behalf. This means that you can never ever be imprisoned without your signature. So of course, guys, they're going to try and intimidate you, manipulate you, and coerce you into signing. They may even charge you with contempt of court, which is merely a misdemeanor, in other words, bad attitude. So guys, they could even jail you for a very short period, but they cannot put you in prison for an extended period without your signature. So remember that we never lose our inalienable rights. It just seems like we have because of the fraud that's been committed by the cabal. Guys, this misunderstanding happens because we never ever bothered to correct the errors made by the state when they registered you as a corporation on registration of your birth, and then, based on maritime law, they then viewed you as cargo, which is lost at sea. It sounds insane, doesn't it? But it's all true. Guys, what this means, because we said nothing, we have in effect given our tacit approval to be viewed as said corporation and cargo lost at sea. So as we never ever lose our inalienable rights, remember they're inalienable. You can never touch them, you can never lose them. The state is always obliged to get you or us to acknowledge that we are not sovereign, but rather just our straw man whenever they try to engage with us and impose their legislation or codes or rules on us. So whenever the state wants to recognize you as your straw man, they first need you to acknowledge that you are just that. So never do that. Never acknowledge that. So as long as you remain calm, focused, and you choose your words very carefully, guys, they have no authority over you at all. So once we correct the errors by not acknowledging the authority of the policeman or magistrate, they no longer have your tacit approval, do they? And as such, they have zero authority over you. Guys, you can just imagine, of course, they're going to try to intimidate you, coerce you, but most important, just remain steadfast, confident, and resolute, and they can actually do nothing. But I just want you to just keep this in the back of your mind. Remember, guys, that they may wrongly believe that they do indeed have authority over you. So tread carefully and never, ever become belligerent. It could end very badly for you. So with all the work which is going on in the background, guys, I don't believe that you need to do any of the following. But if you want to protect yourself in the interim, go ahead and do these things, right? Very important, guys. I've placed a comprehensive document below which explains the entire process in great detail. The errors that we've given our tacit approval to by not correcting them, guys, are very, very easy to correct as follows. But let me just quickly go through the process. Never ever acknowledge that you are your straw man, but rather always state clearly that you are the executor of your straw man's trust. Guys, the easiest way to do this is to always have a copy of your straw man's unabridged birth certificate with you, which you refer to as your straw man. So when confronted by any so-called policeman, you know what a policeman is? They are policy and license enforcement officers. You want to present them with your birth certificate and state that the person they're referring to is a fiction and is represented by that piece of paper, that birth certificate. You also want to have, or should I rather say, write an express trust agreement for your CQV trust where you state you're the executor, guys. No trust document ever existed at your birth. When they created your CQV trust, they never wrote a trust document, so that will be the first trust document. Remember, it's always a good idea to have a copy of your express trust and unabridged birth certificate with you and a silver or gold coin so that you can't be viewed as a pauper. Guys, below, I want you to find a document which explains all of this in detail. This ensures that when you are confronted by a policeman or when you appear in court, the judge, who's actually a magistrate, cannot act as the executor of your CQV trust because the executor is present, namely you. The other thing that you can do in the interim is register a trademark against your all capital letters name, which is connected to a CUSIP number. This ensures that when you do go to court, you can act on behalf of your fiction or straw man. Guys, like I said, I don't think this is necessary anymore, but if you really want to protect yourself, you can still do this. So guys, I keep stressing, I don't think this is necessary, but if you want to access the proceeds of your CQV trust, guys, there's a whole lot more stuff that needs to be done, but once again, all of that information is clearly outlined below, guys. Taking ownership, it's called taking ownership of your minor trust. So I must caution you here, guys, to tread lightly as you may negatively affect any possible payouts which are due to you in the future, guys, as a massive amount of work has already been done to recover your sovereignty. In fact, most countries have been returned to republics, and then so have you. A massive amount of work has already been completed in the background and in the process of being completed, guys, to end this ridiculous fraudulent scheme that the deep state has put in place to defraud humanity of our inalienable rights. So as I said previously, I think it's unnecessary to go through this whole process of regaining your sovereignty. But guys, if you'd like to do it anyway, there's a comprehensive document below that will allow you, it's a step-by-step process that will show you how to facilitate this. But let me leave you with this piece of advice whenever engaging with the police. Very important, guys. Always remain calm and never, ever become confrontational. Remember that most police are as uninformed as the rest of the population. So becoming belligerent and acting in a threatening manner, guys, is only going to lead to massive and unnecessary conflict, guys. You always want to carry printed documentation with you demonstrating the various laws which demonstrate your rights as a sovereign being. I've placed all of these documents below, guys. If you want to do that, do it with pleasure. So make these documents look as official as possible, guys. Put stamps and seals and things on them just to show your inalienable rights. I found, guys, that when you present a calm but confident demeanor and you think in terms of educating the police officer or magistrate with supporting documents, guys, you've got a much better chance of exerting those inalienable rights. But always remember, if things do spiral out of control, remain calm, comply, but ensure that you state very clearly how the policeman or magistrate is not recognizing your inalienable rights, and as such, they are breaking the law. You also want to state that should you be detained or jailed for any reason, that you will level the fee of 5,000 Rand or whatever number you come up, or part thereof, for illegal detention. You also want to remember, guys, when confronted by a police officer, you want to state your sovereignty as follows. I'd like to state for the record that although I present you a driver's license with a picture which carries a likeness to my sovereign self, I hereby state for the record that I remain a sovereign being with all of my inalienable rights intact. You want to then hold up a copy of your straw man's unabridged birth certificate and driver's license, and then you state, the name written in all capital letters on said license and birth certificate represents a fiction which I do not recognize as my sovereign self. And as executor of the express trust which represents said fiction, I can speak on behalf of said fiction, but under no circumstances do I accept your authority over my sovereign self. What I've done to help you to get an understanding of how to do it, there's no one way. So I've looked and I try to come up with a recommended process when you meet a policeman. But unfortunately, depending what the policeman says, you would have to say different words. But the most important thing to remember when confronted with a policeman is remain calm, remain resolute, and at no time admit that you are your straw man or the fiction represented by the birth certificate that you carry. Make sure you have your express trust and state continually that you are the executor of said trust. Remain resolute in the fact that I am a sovereign being with inalienable rights. When you go to court for whatever reason, guys, make sure that you have your unabridged birth certificate with you, that you have as many documents as possible with you. I've placed a number of different videos below, guys. Each of them are completely different. So depending on what or how the situation unfolds in court, there's a number of approaches. The most important thing, I can't stress this enough, is remain calm, remain confident, and under no circumstances, no matter how they cajole you, no matter how they try and intimidate you, even if they threaten you with a misdemeanor and they threaten to jail you, guys. Remember, they can never imprison you without your signature, but they can jail you for a very short period of time because of contempt of court. Stay resolute, stay focused, and make sure under no circumstances do you admit that you are the fiction, that straw man fiction. Just never admit that, guys. And that way they have no authority. They may think they have authority over you, but they indeed have no authority over you